Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Nathan is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. And I want to thank Ron Gibson for all his hard work and posting this broadcast on YouTube every day on the Ron Gibson channel. Ron Gibson, thank you very much. And thank you to GCN for making the broadcast possible. And thank you to Republic Broadcasting for making this broadcast available over the Republic Broadcasting Network. And thank you to all of our affiliates, AM, FM, satellite, and so forth. Telephone, listen line. Thank you so much. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Vincent. Thanks for the call this morning.
Yeah. And thank you, Nathan, for engineering today.
Yes.
Well, Rick, I've noticed a say phenomenon, but I've noticed something that caught my attention. And it has to do with complexity of life. And there's several dots we can connect about this. One of the and I don't think it's a good thing. For example, yesterday I went to broadcast. I got up in the middle of the night and I said, I think something's wrong with the internet. I just had this gut feeling, the feeling that you talk about. So I went into the studio and sure enough, the internet was down. So I picked up the telephone, that worked, and I called CenturyLink. And after pressing some buttons, I found out from the automated response that yes, there is indeed an outage in our area, and it would be fixed by 10:32 a.m. Doesn't do us much good because that leaves only 28 minutes of broadcasting time to be on the internet. So I used the telephone yesterday. And I decided that at 10:32 I announced that, well, it's not up, and they're late. Well, I called them right after the broadcast. I called CenturyLink. And I'm going to give you a phone number right now, and I'm going to give it out to you twice, class. You're going to need this number if you have CenturyLink or CenturyTel. 800-201-4099. 800-201-4099. So I called them up, and they said, yeah, you had an outage. And I said, okay, when's it going to be up? And they said, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was up in the afternoon. But during the telephone call, I said to the representative in the Philippines that, I'm paying for internet 24/7 by the month, and it's not up, and it's down a lot. And I would like a credit for the time that it's down. And he said, well, that's reasonable. He said, how long has it been down? I said, well, since about 10 o'clock last night. I think 10 or 11 last night. Because, 1 o'clock. And, or 2 o'clock. And he said, okay, that's reasonable. So he said, I'm going to give you a 3-day credit. Now, 3-day credit is 10% of the month. My feeling is that if we complain and just don't say, it's down, whether it be satellite television or whatever it is, if we call and complain, and if enough of us call and complain, then maybe they'll do a better job with their infrastructure because they'll say, we're spending a fortune on all these people on the phones telling our customers, yeah, you're right, it's down, and having to fight with our customers. So my suggestion is that you do what I do. And whenever I have a problem with CenturyLink, CenturyTel, I call them up, and they give me another credit. So a 10% credit, well, it's not much in money, but I'm paying for something that I'm not getting. And maybe they'll pay a little more attention. So one more time, this will be the third time, 800-201-4099. So if you have a service or a product that you're not happy with, call corporate headquarters.
It's interesting that you would mention CenturyLink. I also, out here on the West Coast, was down for 3 days with CenturyLink. And each time you would call, they would say, yeah, product is expected to be up. They wouldn't let you talk to a human being. In this instance, when I tried to call repair, I could not get a hold of a human, no matter what I did, insisting. And they said it would be 4 o'clock. Then at 4 o'clock, when it would come by, you'd call in, and it would be, 8 o'clock in the morning. You'd call at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was going to be at 3 o'clock, no, 2 o'clock net, 5 o'clock. And it kept going like that all week long. And interestingly, during that same brief period, Amazon, no orders from Amazon except that very moment when I'm down and not able to get my orders. And it's a coincidence because Amazon has put me on notice that I am not being a very good business. I'm impeccable. Every day, and especially with Amazon. And it was the very moment my internet was down that I received 4 orders from Amazon with no radio to justify the spurge of interest in my work. And they're not connected. It's all coincidence. But because of all of the trauma that I have gone through over the last 3 years with Amazon, I am now looking at shadows. And I've had some extremely interesting people calling me. The level, thank you, everybody. Julie, what was the name of that man again?
Robert Davis.
Oh, yeah, like Robert Davis called me last night. And I introduced him to Grace Thorne because she's going back home in a couple of days. We're going to have an early Thanksgiving. And it's very cool what various people are saying to me and trying to support my battle, which is untenable. There's no way I'm ever going to recover anything in what they did to me. And if they're doing it to me, I have had now valid confirmation from more than 3 different sources of individuals like myself that are having a battle. And there is absolutely no question that some rogue unit inside Amazon, because it's so large, is now for hire to harass individuals. For a fee, you can cause somebody else trouble with Amazon. And this is what is a symptomatic of larger corporations and what is happening to America. And I am choosing to not allow it to bother me. It's very difficult to believe that this is all coincidental in the timing on it. And it is. It most likely is. And what's happened is I've gotten into what we call a gang stalking protocol mindset where I see everything as hostile now. And I don't want to be like this. I want to be a sweet old man going out in the last years of my life with my accomplishments and giving gifts to humanity and my insights to leave footprints for others to follow in my steps. And there is no question that I'm not only being harassed, that there are others like me that are being harassed. And it's so subtle, it makes Tavistock and the protocols that came out of the original mind control studies lucid. Now, it started with Manchurian Candidate when we were in Korea. And I'm watching how this whole thing is now changing on an individual basis with citizenship. And America, as I understood it and believed in it, is gone. It is no longer, you're going to talk about just the services industry with things like automobiles, which is what made America strong with General Motors. And yet, that whole thing now is gone. I am watching this movie series called Designated Survivor. Thank you for turning me on to that, Vincent. It's enlightening to say what this individual acting as a president of the United States is having to go through. And while I watched West Wing, I watched Madam Secretary and several other previous series on this Designated Survivor nails it in terms of America being split in part. For the first time, I'm watching the Democratic and Republican parties both advocating violence as a valid form of protest. Now, we need a Martin Luther King again. We need a Mahatma Gandhi. We need something to stop this nonsense in a manner that is appropriate to rules of engagement and moral codes of ethics. And they're allowing no margins because the war includes body count of civilians so that there is a fear element. I am right now involved with 5G technology. They're trying to ram it down our throats here in Grants Pass, Oregon, without cause. They're just ramming it down our throats. And I am now noticing that there's Cotati and other smaller cities in California that are banning it as a group state thing. And while that isn't going to stop the movement, I can now prove that 5G technology is an endgame weapon, that once that is in place, there will be no need for law enforcement on a local house-by-house basis. They'll be able to control you with the people within your own home. And that's what 5G is about to present. And when I say it's an endgame weapon, it was developed in the 70s. It was used twice in Iraq effectively with Commander Solo. And now they're going to put it on every single house in America. I have a deep concern, and I would be remiss if I did not say something as a physicist that unfortunately was part of the early development of these weapons.
Let's talk more about it when we come back after these few short commercial announcements. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us. RichardAlanMiller.com. RichardAlanMiller.com. So, Rick, you and I have been enduring lack of service from CenturyLink and CenturyTel, same company. Well, if you try to call them and all you get are these automated responses, there's another solution. If you pay by credit card, you can dispute the credit card bill. And you'll have to document, write down you called them at 10:32, you called them at 1:46, on the dates. So you have the dates and times. And then you call up your credit card company and say, I'm paying for service and I'm not getting it. And it takes a lot of time to, try to find out what's going on. And I can't get responses other than these automated responses. So I want to dispute that monthly charge. Now, if enough of us do that, and it costs the CenturyLink $35 every time someone disputes a credit card charge. It costs the merchant $35. So it starts to add up. And if you're looking at a $100 phone bill that you're disputing plus the $35, now you're at $135 plus the time that it takes for them to respond, it starts to add up. And if it continues, then they have to hire more people or use more management time to figure out what in the heck to do with us. And actually, it's not us, it's them. They're causing the problems. So, class, if you're using credit cards, dispute when you have problems. Okay? They have to be bona fide, but you have to try to work it out with the merchant. And if you can't work it out, then you initiate a dispute by calling that 800 number or whatever it is, 866-877-800 on the back of your credit card. The number's right there. Or look it up on the internet. So that's one way of dealing with these companies that try to take advantage of us. Because what they really should do is they should say, if they were an honorable company, they should say, wow, we've had 200,000 people without service for 3 days. Let's give them 3 days worth of credit, plus let's give them another 3 days for the interruption inconvenience. Let's be nice about it. Do they do that? Absolutely not. You have to call them and pressure them into giving you a credit for the service that you didn't get. It's unbelievable, but that's the way it is. Rick, would it be all right with you if we talk about what's happening with technology and how it is running us over in terms of...
Yeah, help yourself. I wanted to just complete my final thought on
Sure, go ahead.
the 5G technology is symptomatic of what you're going to talk about with automobiles and socks that I might buy at Weimar. You know, somebody is turning things on my computer without my permission, and their audio coming in. Like they'll load. Somebody is in my computer right now. I can't believe it. Please, excuse me. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief scenario. Just try to follow with me for a moment. Our prisons. We have a large body of people in prison that are incarcerated for crimes, real or imagined, and there they are as a no rights body of human beings that can be laboratory-like tested. And they have been doing this beta testing of switching from opiates to antipsychotics for the last 10 years. This is, I don't know if anybody has noticed, but the prisons are no longer having an epidemic in heroin and or opiate-like pain medicines. It is now about antipsychotics, Zoloft, Prozac, and all these other speed-like drugs that are like methamphetamine, others like that. This is for the attention deficit disorder studies and these new diagnoses that may or not be real. And now our prisons have a serious problem with antipsychotics, no longer about opiates. So then we move to the next beta study, and that's our children, where they put them on Zoloft, Prozac, prednisone, some of these creepy drugs, where they have discovered that 1 in 5 children that are on these antipsychotics are unstable. All they need, but we'll finish this up when we come back. I want you to watch the scenario where this goes. It's quite deep.
Rick Miller's with us. We'll be right back. Rick, you were talking about prisons. You were talking about antipsychotic drugs. You were talking about 1 in 5 people. Please continue.
Children. That's the new beta test that's going on right now. It's our children. They're beta testing our children. And because I can say this with full certainty, because of what I've seen with 9/11 and all the other plausible deniability things that are going on, and the weapons I helped develop in the 70s. Now, our children are our single most important natural resource, and they have literally undermined that with education and the fact that now Gen X's do not. I saw a child at the post office yesterday that was 3 years old and had her own smartphone. She had it in her hand, and she will know how to use that far better than me as her educational source of information now, not TV like it was with me. With, hey kids, what time is it? It's howdy doody time. Now I watched this and realized that what I did in part of all of this is that I developed a technology that came out of Willow Grove on being able to place a sound anywhere in space, including outer space. It requires 0.3 to 3 gigahertz, which means it will not function until you have a 5 megahertz bandwidth. And that's why they're pushing this, because they can now place with that technology, they can place a sound anywhere they want to inside your house, including an individual child's head with a third-generation D-Wave technology identifying which child by DNA from your garbage. Now, with that said, what they're doing is if 1 in 5 children, if you remember all the different shootings, including the one in Florida, every single one, when the first reporter on scene, the first police on scene are interviewing the children in the school, every single one of them says, yes, I heard multiple shots, not a single shot over here. There was shots over here and there were shots over there. That has always included a second shooter until CNN, NBC, or something equivalent gets on scene in the third hour and changes the spin on everything. And what's happening is they're beta testing our children where they're on a Prozac, let's say, and this child is unstable. We place a sound in his head. Every single one of these kids has said they hear voices in their head. Then there's a second shooter that somehow disappears. And that second shooter is what we call a handler that taps that child with scopolamine. And that weapon, once it's deployed in your neighborhood, coming to a neighborhood near you, 5G, that means how many people are in your neighborhood just around your farm in rural Missouri are on antipsychotics right now. And that is your law enforcement new police force. All they have to do is have an individual unstable in that area, put voices in their head, and then tap them with scopolamine. And what they have now is a weapon. And that is my concern about 5G technology right now. Because if it's even imaginable, you can absolutely count on it.
Right now, there's an article on telegraph.co.uk. Let me read the headline. Headline is, brain implants used to treat Parkinson's can be hacked and used to control people, scientists warn. So what's happening is there's a neurosurgery group that is claiming that memories can be exploited by hackers and make people do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do, which is what you're talking about.
The idea is when you put a voice in your head, you can determine that that's not you. That's how they first did it with Microsoft in Seattle. They had a big billboard on the side of a building, and as you walked by, you could hear the sound and music inside your head. Wow, look at that technology. That's where it first appeared. Commander Solo, look it up. It is the first weapon that was deployed in both invasions of Iraq. It is a single aircraft with a multiple of computers heterodyned into what we call a supercomputer. It's 356 computers in an algorithm, and then what it does, synthetic telepathy, is it heats up the temporal lobes at 0.3 to 3 gigahertz, heats up the temporal lobe, and it causes it to ring. Once it's ringing, you heterodyne a voice on there, audio voice, and you can hear it in your head without it going through your ears. And if you take somebody that's on an antipsychotic, you drop that voice down to subliminal levels like hypnosis. And now you have a tool where you can fool people that have the right to be able to distinguish themselves from something outside. And as it gets more and more complex, it's difficult to know how you feel about something. And then start talking way down low so you can't hear me, and then it's going to do it. That is a new kind of weapon. And with scopolamine, and I helped doing that. That was in the lab. Now, that's a tropine alkaloid. that is primarily used for lie detecting, truth serum, and or unstableness in an individual. And now what you have is a child that does not know right from wrong, can't determine if it's himself, or something else, and being directed by someone older, tapping him with scopolamine. And there's your second shooter that always happens, including the Batman movie in Colorado, the thing in Florida, the thing up here in Oregon, and what was the Michael Moore one? The schools where all of this started. This is a beta testing for rolling out 5G in a neighborhood near you. And, aside from the dosimetry and LD50 ratios of these different bandwidths on biological processes, we already know that 5G affects the temporal lobes. Why would they do that? Because of convenience of being able to charge your cell phone on the fly? I don't even use cell phones anymore. And Amazon, others, are trying to force us to not use landlines when we want to log in with correctness because they want to text you the password and that kind of thing, where if you don't have a cell phone, you're kind of out of shape in being able to log in easily into your account. And it's going to become much, much worse. And you're concerned about automobiles. I'm looking at the socks I wear. And it used to be I wore crew socks because I played tennis. Today I wear footies. Have you noticed how quickly the footies wear holes in the bottom of the sock? I have all my life never seen anything wear out as much. And yet the footie is half the material. It's the same price. And somehow the cotton that's being used is so inferior. The whole thing is about marketing. Do more, buy more, want more. And we've lost our way in the forest.
Okay, you mentioned they're wearing out faster. And you mentioned cotton, less cotton. Goodyear makes a tire called Viva 3, V-I-V-A, with the number 3 after it. They're sold exclusively at the Chinese factory outlet. And we have noticed in our area that people are buying these tires because they're inexpensive. Not only are they inexpensive, but they're deceptive. They are cheap. They are junky tires. And I've assigned as homework to our class that if you're at the Chinese factory outlet, go to the tire department where they sell batteries and tires, and motor oil and oil filters. Go look at the tires. You'll see the Goodyear. And you recognize Goodyear. It used to be a name that you could trust. Well, they have come out with a tire, this Viva 3. It's an inexpensive tire. It's a passenger car tire. And it has a couple plies of steel in the tread. But when you get to the sidewall, it's one ply. One ply. Class, that's one step stronger than a balloon. Okay? One ply of polyester in the tread. I'm sorry, in the sidewall. Go feel it. Go feel the actual side of the tire and see how flexible it is. Then think about your vehicle of, maybe 3,000 pounds. And think about your vehicle riding on that thin, flimsy, one-ply sidewall. I'm not going to buy them. And what we're finding out is they're okay if you live in the city. If you hit a pothole, they are subject to rupturing quickly. If you hit a curb, graze a curb with them, sidewall can't take it in many cases. These are dangerous tires, in my opinion. And so why am I saying this? Because we have experience with people we know that have these junky tires. And they blow out. They rip. They rupture on the sidewalls. Why? Because they're thin. And Goodyear's figured out that they can take extra plies that used to be in the sidewalls and reduce it to one ply, which to me is crazy. And if you just go to the internet and you look up Viva 3, Goodyear Viva 3, and you search for opinions, you will see, look at the one-star opinions. There are so many of them. They say that they're supposed to be a 50,000-mile tire, and they last 20-something thousand. People hate them. They absolutely hate the tires. Now, who would like them? Oh, somebody who doesn't know anything. Somebody who just rides around the city and doesn't have to go on the shoulder of the road, who doesn't have to drive on a gravel road, someone who doesn't have to ride on a rough road. Maybe they're okay in that situation, but not if you have to ride on a rough road or swerve off the road and get out of the way of a... So Rick was talking about socks wearing out, and we're talking about some bad products, and I'm talking about some dangerous products. I consider these dangerous. This is my opinion. Goodyear, come get me. Come get me if you think that I'm saying something that's not true. And I'll tell you what, here's my offer to Goodyear. If you think that I'm saying something that's not true, we can go head-to-head right here on USA Prepares. I'll give you equal time. You can say whatever you want, as long as it's professional, clean, above board, and honest. And I'll give my opinions. So here's what I've just read. So I typed in Viva 3, one word, Viva 3 tires, comma, junk. Here's the review. And this comes from bigdealsbox.com. Vivas are a do not buy. Put 4 of these on my kid's car. 3 of the 4 didn't last 6 months due to sidewall bulges and bad belts. There you go. So what else can we say? Well, these good for a year didn't even last that long. There you go. Final sentence. Not cheap, but definitely junk. That's Goodyear Viva 3 tires. Don't buy them. Rick?
I'm disappointed in America. I'm disappointed in myself for somehow buying into all of this. And for myself, I'm seeking direction. I'm not certain what to do. As an individual, of course, I can speak on national radio. I can try to be a credible source of information, but I know that I don't know, and I don't know why. It's all about money. We already have all agreed that money is about to hit a brick wall, and yet I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. And the thing that I'm most concerned about now is this newer technology being forced on us. You know, to opt out, to not have 5G on your house, who cares? It'll be next door. And with how close everybody lives to everybody else now, only in the deep country will you have any kind of margin. And essentially what 5G technology is it moving up in the gamma ray level of why we have an atmosphere and are protected between the Earth and space. And what they're doing is bringing this technology down below the atmosphere filter to screen out and protect ourselves. And watch what it's doing to the smaller organisms around you now. It's the ants and flies.
Ants and flies, they're gone. Ants are gone, flies are gone, bees are gone, pollinating bees are gone, bugs are gone.
The bees, what's happening with bees is that they use that bandwidth to navigate and find food. And they've done studies now where they show that where there's the 5G towers, the bees can't go. They get confused. They can't navigate. And so there's our food chain, just with the convenience of being able to charge your cell phone on the fly. And batteries, the lithium and the way they make these things, it's worse than radiation in terms of toxic waste and garbage spills. I'm not advocating going backward in terms of the way my dad and my grandfather did it. But there's something wrong here. And we need to draw some lines. And the problem is, it's the corruptness is on a local level. It's not on a national and international level. It has now proliferated right down into your neighborhood.
I'm stuck on what you said about your dad and the way he did it. I think it was probably pretty good, the way he did it. And when we come back, I want to share a story with you about the supply chain. Something that we discovered. It's unbelievable how thin this supply chain is for common items. And where is the inventory? Well, it's on the truck. It's on the truck on the way to the store. So if you buy more than they have, well, they'll have more tomorrow or the next day. The inventory is on its way. It's not at the store for you to buy when you need it. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. Rick, 5G. Is there any stopping it short of using those systems for target practice?
The problem is that at 5 gigahertz, the bandwidth frequency is quantum mechanical. That means that there's no known physics to screen it. That's the concern. You can't wrap your head in aluminum foil. That is not going to work. It's so insidious that if you had a giant screw, going into a vault that was 10 feet thick, and the screws were 1 inch each for 10 feet, the microwave band can work between the edges of the screw and work its way inside the vault. There's no known screening. Now, I know that alien technology has something, because whenever you say pictures of an alien, it's like they're wearing a skin suit of some kind. And the metaphor that I'm going to use would be Scientific American in an article that was posted once in 2010 and then never seen again, was that there was a new technology that took copper and did a certain geometric weave in the cloth that would reflect gamma rays. I know of no technology and how that would work, and I'm as good as it gets, and I am understanding that obviously there's something that we have developed that is not available to the public. These little pendants that you wear are kind of like wearing a little gem around your neck. The gem is a metaphor for a Bravas lattice that is or is not going to have some kind of effect on you with electromagnetic radiation. I don't know how that all works. What I do know is that there is no known way to shield yourself from anything in the microwave band, and that's starting in the gigahertz region. And when you get up to 5G, you're talking about a very fine, something even more tiny than the bonding lattice between carbon.
Okay, David in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Yeah, how you doing? He brought up scopolamine. I have experience with that. They gave me an eye drop with that in it, and that is some strong stuff. The first time I took it, my wife found me laying down in front of the refrigerator with my head in the refrigerator. Don't even know how I got there. I had no idea how I got there. That is some strong stuff. And that was just an eye drop form.
Rick, you have a comment on that?
Well, propene alkaloids, scopolamine, hydrocyamine, atropine, these are all part of Datura stramonium and other kinds of plants that grow in the Southwest, and were written about by Carlos Castaneda and the so-called Little Smoke. Dr. Moore was doing ketamine telepathine and BZ studies in anesthesiology in 1970 when I was working with synthetic telepathy. And scopolamine was well known even at that time as a mind control / truth serum, that you would tap the individual with scopolamine and it would break down barriers in terms of truth serum. And these were used beginning in Korea and then in Vietnam. And the so-called Manchurian Candidate, that's the drugs that they use, scopolamine. Now, I have written about that extensively in my early years. Today, I'm writing about polysaccharides and pharmaceutical mushrooms, but you can't kid a kidder. And if these drugs, they have weapon potential, and if you don't think they're not going to explore that, I have a concern. And it's our children that they're experimenting and beta testing right now. And all of these shootings that are going on are not random kids acting out. They're on antipsychotics. How dare them put a child on these kinds of drugs like Zoloft and Prozac? That's crazy. And yet,
so what would the doctor prescribing that drug say after the shooting? Geez, we should have gotten him on more drugs sooner? I mean, is that the answer?
I have no idea, because it's like out of control, like opiates were. That's the new drug of choice, are antipsychotics, not opiates. And this is even a worse group of chemistries than the ecothalins and endorphins associated with opiates. These are brain chemistries that I'm writing about in the non-local mind, and how you use these to change the movie. And they're going to tap you with these, and they'll change it for you.
David, any further comments?
Yeah, well, all these medicines are putting on these kids today. That, to me, that's a different form of, like, the frontal lobe lobotomies. Everybody was taking their kids out outpatient. They just want them to sit there like zombies and do nothing. But
yeah, not to question, not to wiggle in class, not to okay. When I was a kid, the first thing, I had a report card in 3rd grade. Ricky is very disruptive. He asks too many questions.
Right, that's my report card.
And they told my mother that they wanted to put me on what's that? Zinc, not zinc. It was
lithium.
Lithium, yeah, there you go. And my mother refused. And so what they made me do in 3rd grade was at lunchtime I had to get up in front of all of my class, leave the class, and go to psychology and spend 2 hours with them before I was allowed back in the classroom where they were studying me. And I remember when the guy what he would be doing is asking me questions while we were playing Monopoly. And he would be testing me, trying to see where I was going. And I would beat him all the time in Monopoly, and at the same time see exactly what he was trying to do and end run him. And that's when he came back and said, well, there's nothing wrong with this child. He's gifted. So then what they wanted to do was advance me in school. And my mother wouldn't let them do that either. And so the rest is history. Look at what I have done for the military and farming and the contributions that I have done all my life as a result of not allowing them to put me on drugs or to advance me in school to become a dysfunctional or a functioning savant. Now, I'm normalized now, but I drool, I bob my head, and I hum a lot. And I'm a functioning savant, and, people get me. I'm human. There's nothing wrong with me any more than there's something wrong with someone with Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a child. That's what they did in the latest movie, Predator, was that Bell's palsy, not Bell's palsy, Asperger's is the next evolution in man's consciousness. It's not that there's something wrong with the child. He's gifted, and that's the wonder of diversity that we have in children and their ability to do things other children can't. And here we are trying to say, like the American Medical Association, that one size fits all. It doesn't. My heart rate, pulse, and respiration are different, and oh, guess what? I, at my age of 74, have the ability to go in and control autonomic functions, just like it ever was. And it is no longer my house burning down. I've had enough. I don't know what to do, and so I appeal to my listeners. Yet revolution starts with you getting off the couch. The very fact that I have means that mankind has already survived, because I am a reflection of everyone out there, of what we are all capable of becoming. And how did they put it? I'm mad as heck, and I'm not taking it anymore. And I don't have an answer. I'm at a loss. Yeah, I know, giggle, giggle. But the thing is, I don't know what to do now. They have hamstrung me to the point where I'm basically ineffectual and on, conspiracy radio, where I'm not a conspiracist. What I am is a nerd. I'm a real good nerd. And this is no longer Kansas anymore, Toto.
David, any other comments?
Hey, can I say something real quick, answer a question real quick about when your other doctor was on the show? It could be important.
Sure.
Somebody asked what causes flashes and floaters in their eye.
I did.
Okay, that could be a serious sign of retina damage.
Yes.
And the floaters would most likely usually blood deposits that are floating around.
Yes. You're exactly right. And if you call an eye doctor, or if you call the front desk and you say that you have those symptoms, they will want you to come in immediately.
Right.
To see if it needs repair, or whether it's something that is common with age or semi-normal with age, or is it a result of an injury, shock, trauma, banging the head, those kinds of things. You're absolutely right.
Right. Yes.
I appreciate that. And I was the one who mentioned that.
Yeah, you ought to be lucky they butchered us to make it so it's a lot easier for everybody else to have them done. Dang.
I'm sorry to hear that, David. Give my best to your wife. It's David in Illinois, and Rick and I will be right back after these few short commercial announcements. If you have Netflix, watch Jericho. Jericho is a series around a couple of years, and it's about how people react under a terrible situation, under nuclear bombs going off in the United States. How families work together, how they don't work together, how neighbors work together, how they don't work together, how the town pulls together, how the towns fight other towns, strife, backstabbing, me first, the village working together, everything good, everything bad you can possibly think of. No salacious sex. I think it's something the whole family should watch. That's homework assignment number 1. Homework assignment number 2, Dedicated Survivor, which Rick was talking about. It's literally, in my opinion, a documentary on the swamp. It really is. It's everything good and everything bad, and what it's like to be outnumbered, outgunned by people who want themselves first. I think you'll be awakened by Designated Survivor. Assignment number 3. Go to Walmart and look at the tires and feel Viva 3 tire sidewalls, and compare them to the other sidewalls of all the tires that are in the rack of other brands, makes, models, and compare them to Viva 3. And that's a documentary on profit before quality, profit before safety, profit before the customers. Customers don't matter. And you'll see it. You'll see what happens when a big corporation puts your safety at risk. Actually, two corporations. One is Walmart, because they sell them, and the other is Goodyear, that manufactures them. And in Jericho, you will hear the word revolution, which Rick mentioned. And that's the rising up. And I'm wondering what it's going to take to stop 5G. Is it going to take people with rifles using the 5G antennas, transmitters, receivers as targets? Is that what it's going to take? I don't know. I'm not advocating it, but it may come down to that.
The University of Pennsylvania has now set up warnings of outlawing people going for hikes into the woods where there is no cell phone reception. Why?
Warning because you'll be safe out there? Is that what they're saying?
You're not safe without being able to contact for help, is their argument.
Ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I understand. That's why you go to the woods in the first place, is to get away from that technology. And yet they're using that as an argument in Pennsylvania now. Now, that tells me, that irrationality tells me there's something way more sinister going on here. And as a scientist, Dr. Beal, E-A-L, B-E-A-L, in Florida, has done extensive research on dosimetry, LD50 ratios, on exposure of the body to these bandwidths. And the body has dosimetry with this. Now, that means they're toxic, just like the plastic in your food now. That was GE and DuPont and Better Living through chemistry. I am here to warn you, as a scientist, we are going down roads we do not want to do. And there's nothing I can do except to try to warn you on that. That $60 is the difference between a smartphone and a person driving up my driveway, getting out of his vehicle and taking a reading off a meter. I don't believe it.
What do you mean $60?
That means if I choose to opt out and not have a smart meter and keep the current meter that I have, they're going to charge me $60 a month to have a reader come out and read it.
Wait a minute, hold it. 2 years ago, it used to be free. 3 years ago, it used to be free. Well, not free, but...
That's because there's an agenda.
They used to read the meters all the time, starting with the first installation of electricity. Dan Sutterfield is in Missouri. He's on hold. We'll be right with you, Dan, when we come back from the break. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us. RichardAlanMiller.com. RichardAlanMiller.com. Dan Sutterfield in Missouri is just joining us via telephone. Welcome, Dan.
Good morning, gentlemen. First of all, Vince, I'd like to apologize. I'm off topic. Is that okay?
Okay. Sure.
Because what you're talking about is fascinating, but I'm going to have to walk out of the door here in a minute, and I won't be able to make the call. The reason I called in, as you probably know, your friend John Moore has a meetup in Rolla, Missouri once a month. And it just so happens that this evening, the first Thursday of the month, is the meetup. And we're having a representative from an organization called U.S. Law Shield. Have you ever heard of them, Vince?
I did. I have, and you called me about it and left a message, yes.
Good. I'm glad you got that. Well, I went to the meeting down in Lebanon, and I didn't see you there, so I'm assuming you were busy. But anyway, the problem we've got in our legal system, not to mention, we couldn't mention all the problems. I'm glad it's as good as it is. You could be found totally innocent of any wrongdoing and then end up being destroyed in a civil suit later just because you have to defend yourself, which I can't get my head around that at all. I just don't have enough brain cells to understand who in their right mind would have figured out a system like that. But if you're carrying, concealed or otherwise, if you're carrying a cast iron skillet and you end up defending yourself with it, you could be found totally innocent criminally. And then 6 months later, the people that you defended yourself from, their family, or if they survived themselves, they can bring a civil suit against you, and the necessity that you would have to defend yourself with a lawyer could financially destroy you. And when that reality finally hit me, I jumped and I bought some protection through one of the 5 or 6 major companies in the United States that you can find out about on the internet. And I felt good. I was better than nothing. And then I stumbled on U.S. Law Shield, and I got invited down to Lebanon to their presentation. And Vince, it's the difference in night and day. It's 1/3 the cost of what I originally had, and there's no cap on the lawyer fees. And the other one was 3 times more expensive, and there was a cap.
Tell you what, if you know the contact, have that person get in touch with me, and we'll put him on the air, and we'll talk about it. How about that?
That would be great. So okay. I'll make sure that happens. But for right now, and I'm almost done here, Vince, I appreciate the time. If anybody's interested in hearing it directly from the people, and you could do that on your show too, which won't be too much by any means, at Benton Square tonight, Rolla, Missouri. We get together at 5, have a meal. We go upstairs on the 3rd floor, and this presentation will start at 6. And Benton Square is in Rolla, Missouri, right in the heart of town. It's not that big a town. The address is 6th and Cedar Street. And I would say anybody that doesn't have this of some description, I'm not stumping for U.S. Law Shield, but it's the best I've seen so far. If you don't have that and you're carrying, you're setting yourself up for a financial disaster, because our legal system is so convoluted that to defend yourself will destroy you financially if you don't have something like
unless you're a cop. Unless you're a cop and you get go on a killing spree.
I'm talking about civilians here, bud.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. All right, Vincent, thank you so much for letting me in.
Hey, one last thing, Dan. You mentioned you were interested in coming out to the farm with, when Rick comes and Norm, and we have a little get-together. I talked it over with the family, and they said, yeah, we can have it right here at the farm. Can you imagine that?
So, I would love to see your place. I've tried to picture it in my mind. Since I was a builder, I still am to a certain extent. I would really enjoy seeing your place. You've done a lot of very interesting things there, it sounds like.
To describe the farmhouse, it would be a classic French-style farmhouse. That's what it is. It's stone.
And you can't shoot through the walls.
Well, you can with a 50, maybe.
There's many of them out there.
Yeah. The other stuff, no, I don't think so. Dan, thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the time. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye. Rick, I want to talk about supply chain for just a minute. It's unbelievable. So our son has got this little business, and he services automobiles and trucks and things. And he decided that he was going to find a better price for oil filters. The one that he likes or uses the most is a size that fits a common Chevrolet V8, the most common V8 around here, in the most common pickup truck around here. And he likes the AC Delco brand. It's a little larger than the typical ones that people put on their vehicles. It's a model PF61E, AC Delco. So he called the auto parts store that we do business with, the AutoZone, and he said he wanted to get a case of them, case of 12. They had 2 in the store. They had 3 in the hub, the distribution hub. So several days later, they were able to get 12 oil filters. They had to pull them off the shelves in all the stores in the Springfield market. This is 12 oil filters, most common brand, most common size. They had to put all the resources together to get 12 of them. Hard to believe, right? That's true. Okay, next story. He was balancing the wheels for a Ford Focus, another common vehicle. And he noticed that the lug nuts were not all the same on one wheel. And when he balances wheels, he wants to make sure the lug nuts are the same weight so that the wheels are in balance, once he's done dynamically balancing them. So he needed two. He needed two lug nuts the same size as the factory. They had one in the store. Now, you could buy a pack of 16 or a pack of 20 generic lug nuts, but they're not the original weight of the original manufacturer. So they had to get some. Then he wanted to get some other lug nuts. And they had for a Mustang, another common vehicle, Ford Mustang, 2006 or 2007 maybe. They had one. What I'm saying is the supply chain is way, way, way thinner than we think. So, class, keep that in mind. And are you willing to wait till tomorrow? I'll get it tomorrow. You might want to get it today because you may not be able to get it tomorrow. That was the message within what I just said. The supply chain is really, really thin. And I know that we cleaned out O'Reilly's. There's an O'Reilly store. And in December, we wanted to buy some diesel engine oil. And literally, we bought every case they had, and it fit in the back of a Chevy Blazer. It's everything they had. Can you imagine? It's true. So if you think that there's a lot of supply there, there's not. And this is diesel country. People have farm tractors that run with diesel engines, trucks that run with diesel engines, and diesel engine oils is like common. And we were able to clean them out by filling up the back of a Chevrolet Blazer. It was a full-size Blazer, but that's all it took. Any comments on that?
No, I agree with this so-called just-in-time delivery is going to shock everybody when the grid does actually collapse. It's going to collapse. You can count on that. And the food, just in your local grocery store, is less than 3 days. Without delivery, there's going to be shortages on Band-Aids, Q-tips, whatever. All these things that we take for granted are going to, in one moment, no longer be available.
Okay, that's a good point. So you look at Walmart. If you're in Walmart, let's say you're in the pharmacy area, and you're looking at vitamins, and you see across they have these spring-loaded shelves, so they can put one or two, vitamin C, one or two vitamin D, one or two of whatever it is you're looking for. They're spring-loaded so that if the item's in the back, it gets pushed automatically to the front. So you see a face of choices, but the choices are not very deep. It's like one or two deep. Take a look. And at the same time, you'll see one of their employees with a little basket with one or two of each item, restocking them because they just got the delivery because there was one vitamin C left or no vitamin C left, and she's putting one or two more back on the shelf. Why?
As humor,
that's all she has.
Yeah, as humor, I would add, except in certain products like Dorito corn chips and Coca-Cola.
Yes. Yep. Well,
yeah. I wanted to add
that's almost true. That's almost true.
The things that you want and the things that you need, that is where our country is falling apart. It used to be that you wanted to keep up with the Joneses and you had to have a better automobile. Today, that concept still exists in areas like Los Angeles. Where I live in Oregon, my rent has gone up. It's $950. I went into the ads to see what it would cost down in Santa Barbara for what I have right now, we're talking a minimum of $4,000 a month rent. That's almost 5 times what it cost me to live here in Oregon. Now, why?
Yeah, but isn't the air thicker in California?
Yeah, you got more things to do. Yeah, down there.
I mean is the air has more pollution. So
it has a lot more of everything.
It's more polluted, more traffic, more taxes. Who'd want to be there?
Well, that's where the jobs are, supposedly. And they're now saying that employment is bullish right now in America.
So, class, I no longer have a Facebook page. And before I shut down my Facebook page, I was thinking, maybe I should change my name. So I changed my last name to Smith. Common last name. I didn't change my first name. I didn't pick a popular first name. So I left it Vincent Smith. Then I decided that I should change my address to where would I like to be? I think I'd like to rent some space in the Clinton Foundation in New York City. So I changed my address to the Clinton Foundation. Then I decided, you know what? I don't think I want Facebook anymore. So I just shut down my Facebook page. Class, you don't need Facebook. Honestly, I didn't have any withdrawal symptoms. I felt liberated. It is absolutely wonderful. I don't get any messages. People don't send me things. They don't ask me to play games. I don't get smut. I don't get these women bending over every way you could possibly think of to show me whatever they think that I need to see. I don't have any of that. People asking me to be friends with them, and they're just tramps. They're sluts. They're prostitutes. I don't know what else they are. But I don't want any part of it. So I don't have to deal with that because I dumped Zuckerberg. And it's great. And you can do it too. You don't need Zuckerberg. You can dump Facebook. I wanted to mention very quickly, Rick, about something that I've noticed. It used to be that we had here in our neck of Missouri, the Springfield area, that there were these independent auto lots where people would set up a shop and they would sell cars. And they would be used cars. You could buy them there. You could finance them there. You could buy them and pay cash. And they would have cars that were maybe 10 years old or so. And they were popping up like weeds. They're everywhere. Now they're going away, and they're going away quickly, disappearing. And I think I know the reason. And I wanted to share this because it relates to what we've been talking about, the technology that's running us over. I don't think that these auto lots are typically owned by mechanics. They're owned by people who want to buy and sell and flip cars. Well, they can't fix them. So the market where they would go to an auto auction and buy someone's vehicle that they, like let's say a dealership buys a vehicle as a trade-in, and they really don't want it, so they sell it at an auction. So other people who have these independent car lots buy them at auction, thinking they can fix them, flip them, and make some money on them. I think they're finding out that they can't fix them because they're too complicated, and they can't afford a mechanic to be on site all the time. So these independent auto sales lots are going away. I really believe that's the case because they can't fix the vehicles because they're too complicated. People are now selling their vehicles because the throttle linkage, they can't find throttle linkage. They don't know how to fix it. They can't find the parts. They can't, they have codes on the engine, and the engine is in limp mode. It'll go 15 miles an hour, but that's it. They can't fix it. And to bring it to the dealer, it's too expensive to fix it. So what they're doing is they're dumping their cars at ridiculously low prices.
I have a comment I can answer this with.
Okay, and one more thing. At the same time, people are going to Walmart because they think they can get their oil changed really cheaply. But and buying tires at Walmart. And here's what happened. I worked on a vehicle yesterday. I was like so angry because the jerk at Walmart put the lug bolts on a German car with an impact gun and stripped the lug bolts and stripped the hub. How stupid do you have to be to do that? Pretty stupid. Go ahead, Rick. Your comments.
So, I can sum up everything that we've talked about today with 1 Timothy 6:10. The love of money is the root of all evil.
No question. No question. Class, if you're thinking about going to Walmart and having one of Walmart's tire engineers work on your vehicle, and they trust him with an air hose at 130 pounds per square inch and an impact gun, and he's going to put your lug nuts on or your lug bolts, don't do it. Don't do it.